I'm Killian Bonner, this is Full Rotation Fitness, and welcome to the FRF Athlete Podcast, where I bring on some of the top field athletes out there. We discuss lifestyle, mindset, and what it really takes to reach pinnacle fitness and perform at the highest level possible in their chosen sport. All brought to you in the most accessible and digestible way possible. You don't want to miss this.
Joining us on the podcast today is the phenomenal athlete that is Amee-Leigh Murphy Crowe. Representing the country of Ireland in the sport of rugby, we talk about her journey to becoming one of Ireland's most leading try scorers and gaining that representative status on the Sevens Dream Team. Let's discuss. Amee-Leigh, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. I know you're only recently back from the Dubai Rugby Sevens. So what's the situation with yourself in Ireland at the moment? Are you taking a break from training? Are you still putting in the hard hours in the Irish weather?
Hey Killian, I just want to say it's great to be on and thank you very much for having me on. So I'm back from Dubai, back to the cold unfortunately, but sure look, this is Ireland. This is why we love the place.
Yeah.
I'm back. At the moment, we have a prescribed training program that we stick with from the Sevens program, as I'm contracted with them. That's who prescribe and schedule out our year and our off season and things like that. So yeah, we've been given that program. It's quite flexible, but also there's certain days like that you've run and there's certain days you've gym. It's just whatever time you can fit it in yourself, and what suits you, I suppose, too, because it's also Christmas and you want to relax too. So if you do want to have a nice lie-in in the morning, like you don't need to be up early to be doing your run or your gym. Like you can take your time, or else like me, I like getting up, getting it done and being able to relax and catch up with the family then when they come home from school and things like that. On the other hand, if I've worked, then I might be in work for 5:45 to 1:30 sometimes, so I won't get the session done till the evening time. So I'll go home, have food, have a nap, and then head into my schedule. So, and then some days we have the days off and we have the weekends off, which is great. It's good. I'm used to the routine, and for me personally, I like a routine. I'm not being told what to do, but given an outline about how your weeks are going to look is good for me, because I can see where I'm going and I can see the progress in it.
Brilliant. And Amee-Leigh, just with that, like you said, you're very much in love with that type of routine structure, but how important is the flexibility aspect of that routine, especially coming off the back of a tournament? Do you actually feel like maybe your enthusiasm is a bit low after a tournament? Do you like taking a break? Do you like maybe, jumping outside the complete warrior mentality where we're going to war for 80 plus minutes? Do you find flexibility in your own training, like it is a key aspect?
Yeah, 100%. Like we were in Dubai for 2 weeks, and like that whole time there's 13 in our squad, like we're in each other's company the whole time. Like it can be intense at times. Like obviously it's a high performance, but with our team culture and stuff, we try to just have a bit of fun, how to have a bit of crack. And like in Dubai, we had really good fun. Like we were pranking, we were making funny TikToks, stuff like that. Like we were trying to have a really good time and just enjoy it, because it was 20 months since we were on the series. So we just wanted to make sure that we were actually making the most of this again, because you never know, like with COVID, if there'd be another tournament, or like we thought in 2020 that we were going to be going to another World Series, but unfortunately it was 20 months later that we actually got to go. So we're going to not take things for granted and make sure that we enjoy it. But also on the serious side of it, like we wanted to be able to put in performances in Dubai. So you have to be switched on and focused then when you get in the bus, when you get to training, when you get into the gym, like you have to be hitting those markers and going in the right direction. But flexibility wise, like it is good after a tournament to just unwind, relax. Like it's tough going. Not that putting on not your Irish jersey is a huge pressure, but pressure is privilege, and we get to do that. So you need to take that into consideration, like that you've earned the right to wear that jersey. So now's your time to relax, and now it's your time to, recuperate, rest the mind, rest the body, get the emotions right and things like that. Like you mightn't have thought your review mightn't be as good as you thought it was, and maybe it was then from the coach's aspect. So you might be hard on yourself, but then the coaches have really good things to say about you. So you got to take that on board as well. And then obviously going into Christmas, like it's a really good time to just rest, relax. Like the whole world is doing it. So it's not like you're the only person taking this break. It's not really a break either. Like, we are training quite full on because we do want to hit the ground running before we head to Spain in January, because we've only 2 weeks of a block training together, which is probably 8-10 sessions together before we actually go back on the series again. So trying to get our fitness and our speed and our strength up throughout this little block is key. Our strength and conditioner, she gave us all 3 juggling balls. So between rests in the gym and on the pitch, we're learning to juggle. So I'm at 2 at the moment. So I'm getting there. Hopefully by the end of it, I'll have the 3 going.
Okay, well, if you had 3, I'd definitely get you to do it on today's podcast, but I won't put you on the spot. And I just wanted to go back to that, Amee-Leigh, what you said. I actually haven't heard it before, but I'm going to definitely write it down after this. Pressure is a privilege. If we're in a situation where pressure is on us, like, it's a privilege to be in that situation. Absolutely love that statement. Very glad you didn't say, pressure is for tires, because we hear that quite a lot. But when we do represent a certain jersey, like you're representing your nation, but a lot of time, like, you're representing your second name, you're representing your family name and what you come from, what you represent. And sometimes it can feel like the weight of the world. And did it ever for you, Amee-Leigh, feel like the weight of the world?
No, like, obviously at the start it was quite daunting and overwhelming. You're like, oh gosh, like, how have I got myself to this position? But as you grow into your career and stuff, you realize, like, you've earned it. Like, people don't get Irish jerseys because they haven't earned it. They get it because they've earned it. They've worked hard. They've put in tireless hours. They've made choices in their lives that they may not have been at family events, or they may have missed big moments in their family's lives. But it's a choice that you realize, well, you know what, it's all for the right to earn this, to wear this jersey. So for me, like, pressure is a privilege. Like, I get to run out there, especially in sevens. Like, you play 6 games, and like, every time I get to put the jersey on 6 times over a weekend. And it's like, I say it's like an armor. So it's like this jersey it's not just a jersey, like, it's proper superpower that you have. Like, only 13 of us got to wear it, like, over in Dubai. And it's a huge honor. Like, it's not something that you should think you don't deserve or anything like that. Like, as I said, you've trained hard, you've put in the hours, and you've earned it. And for young girls coming through, like, we had a few new caps, which was great to see, and they just brought so much energy and positivity. And like, they're up there with the standards that we're trying to hit as well, and they're leading the way. But like, they earned it. Like, they put in a long shift through COVID, trained really, really hard, and then they got their opportunity. And it's just great to see that coming through.
Brilliant, Amee-Leigh. And do you find it a bit kind of weird that, I suppose, you're looked at someone now as, like, I could potentially be a role model? I know no one calls themselves that, but you have been playing for a very, very young age. So is it a different transition to kind of look at yourself as someone different in the dressing room, as not that young girl coming in and maybe you're not the biggest joker in the room or something like that?
Yeah, it is. Like, I only kind of realized maybe, like, in the past few years that I am a role model. Like, obviously I play for Ireland, and young girls, young boys, whether it is boys or girls, it doesn't bother me. If they do look up to me, then I hope that I inspire them to do something. And even if it isn't play for Ireland, even if it is just heading to the GA pitch for an hour to puck a ball around, or if it's to head out to the park, with your friends and say, oh, look, give this a go, like, throw a rugby ball around or whatever. But it's only recently, like, that the younger girls coming through have watched us for quite a while. And like, some of them have said that I've been one of their role models. And for me, it's such an honor to hear that from a teammate, because now we're all teammates, now we're all equal. Like, it doesn't actually matter, but yet they still look up to me as a role model. And for me, like, that, I take such pride in it, because I would have never thought that, like, even though my role models were in the team before us. But with the culture we're doing now, we're quite open, and it's a safe space to talk, and we kind of talk about why we do it and why we play rugby. Like, if we're having bad days, how do you think that other people react to you, stuff like that. Like, and then we go about, like, who's your role model. So we were able to talk about that, but like, they obviously felt so safe and open to talk about it, that I was a bit like, I was quite overwhelmed. I was like, gosh, like if they feel so safe to say this to me, then we've created such a good environment that it's so open and honest. But yeah, it's really good thing to hear, and especially with 15s. Obviously, I've been a part of that. Like that game is huge in Ireland, and so many more young girls watch it. And just seeing them at the game in the RDS back in the autumn games against USA, like so many young girls like trying to get autographs and stuff like that. It's really good to see, and it's quite heartwarming, to be honest, because women's sport and it's on the up, so it's positive. Like,
Yeah, every single year it definitely does seem to get that bit stronger, more recognition. So even just going from, I suppose, your own achievements from a personal aspect, Amee-Leigh, like I know when we get into the sport and you were 16, 17, 18, we don't probably look at an individual award, but, being up there with 100 plus tries for your nation, things like, getting on that Dream 17, like, do you look, actually might win that, or do you ever look at that, or are these just kind of bonus effects, and what effect then does that have on you, obviously building into your own momentum for the year ahead?
yeah, back in 2019, like I didn't really think it would end like that, like getting dream team and getting top try scorer. But it was definitely something that I've always looked at other players and was like, like I'd love to be part of that. Like I thrive and I love challenges and I love the competitive side of it, and I always want to be my best self. So like getting those awards, like I was just felt so like I felt so proud, but not just proud for me, like proud for my family that had supported me all the way, who had dropped me to training sessions, and my dad driving me all the way to Ashburn from Tip, like, at the weekends waiting for me and then driving me back home, and then for for the team, like the team has, like, we haven't done amazing, like we haven't won medals or anything like that. We've came third in the Euros, but we've never like made a mark on the series. Only like our best placing was fourth in Sydney in 2018, which was a huge achievement. Um, but trying to understand it all and get the team to realize like those awards weren't just for me, because it's a team sport, and that's why I love playing team sport, is because every girl who I played with along the way like had helped me up to this point, to this milestone of my 100 try, like, and I can't thank them or be any more grateful to them for it, because I genuinely wouldn't be here for them. Like I wouldn't have scored 100 tries without all the teammates I played with. I wouldn't have been on the dream team without all my teammates, and I wouldn't have scored and got the top try score without them. So I genuinely can't thank them enough.
And, if you do, Google your name, if you do search your name, it's going to be team player beside it. It's going to be workhorse. It's going to be dedication. And that just goes to exactly what you said. You're not going to be in the position you are in without having that connection inside the dressing room. And really like that point as well, like that you brought up, is how comfortable you actually can be with the people you're lining out against. And if you want to, put it down to it, you are going to war with them. You should be very, very comfortable with them. And I think in a lot of dressing room cases, from amateur up to professional, it's probably not a pillar that should be looked as important as it actually is. Communication with the people that you do train with, it does have to be up there as a monumental pillar to obviously reach those kind of monuments that you have reached already. Like first semi-final you would have got to in Spain, and obviously when it comes down to that then, Amee-Leigh, like where I suppose is your motivation the most then? Does it come down to the sport itself? Do you find you're stronger in the skill of sport, or did you feel just your own ability, your physicality, the machine that you're building, the vessel that you have, where I suppose were your strengths when you first came into the sport?
So I obviously came from athletics. I did that as a kid, and speed was a huge strength. So when I went to underage rugby, like I was the fast one. It was get the ball to Lee and things like that. But as I grew older and I grew into the game of sevens, like obviously there's loads of space in sevens, and you can exploit it quite well. And one missed tackle and it's a try. It can be a try. So for me, I knew I needed other tools. Like it wasn't going to get me to where I am or where I want to be in the, like, to be at the Olympics. So I knew I had to start working hard. So I had to, like, I didn't have much fitness. I come from athletics and I was just doing sprints and long jump. So I didn't really have the endurance. So I had to work so hard in it. And it took 4 or 5 years to get to the fitness level I wanted to be at, because I wanted to be able to work hard. And so long as I was on the pitch, that I was able to give my absolute 100%, but being able to make good decisions. So like having that fitness behind you was going to allow you to work hard, but also make the right decision. Like you can work hard, but you can make stupid decisions. And that's not for the lack of trying, but if you want your fitness, if you want to work hard and be able to make decisions under fatigue, you need your fitness up. So it took a while to get that going. Like it's not something that you gain overnight, and especially gym work and stuff, it's really good for strength. And like I gained 10, 12 kilos once I joined the program. So I was able to get faster and fitter by getting stronger. People are afraid of that, I think, at times, about getting bigger or whatever, but it definitely helped me. I really needed the gym. I was a small little twig of a girl, and I wasn't going to make it on the series if it wasn't bigger and stronger. And I'm glad I'm glad like that gym side of thing didn't daunt me or think that I was going to get bigger and bulkier and end up being slower or something and not fitter. But on skill wise, yeah, gosh, as I said, I came from athletics, and underage they just passed me the ball and I tried to run around people, but I gained a lot of basic knowledge of rugby in sevens, and I can't thank it enough. It's genuinely helped me so much. Like passing in sevens, like everyone's a passer. Everyone passes from the base of the ruck. Everyone passes out of hand. So I spent a year in LIT doing business with a coach down there, Joy Neville, who's now a referee, and she spent endless hours teaching me how to pass because she knew I could run. This was something that she just picked, and I was like, perfect. If you're going to teach me how to pass, then that's great. And now it's one of my strengths. Like I have a good pass. And then like the tackling side of it, obviously it's a massive part of the game, and the contact element, and that's just a mindset, I think, and you just have to learn to love it, and you just get on with it. Like if you have this mindset that, yeah, I'm going to do it, then you'll love it and you'll work hard at it. There's obviously techniques to get it right so that there's no serious injuries or anything like that. But once you have that attitude, you'll go forward in it, and you'll get the best out of yourself.
Yeah, and look, and even when you go back to that attitude, it's not just a matter of flicking a switch. That attitude is built from all the unseen hours that you do put in. So why wouldn't you say, I can do this, or I am going to obviously achieve that. So as well, Amee-Leigh, I know rugby wasn't your first sport or first love, as you mentioned. We were in athletics. So did Dad ever try pressure with the GA? I know he's a big Arieville Rovers fan. So I suppose was there any pressure at all? Were you ever looked at the GA sense at all?
I played a bit when I was younger, right, and I enjoyed it just because my friends were there. Really, to be fair, I tried my hand at quite a lot of sports. I think hockey was the only one I didn't. But I stuck with athletics at the time, and I saw that out till I was 15, and I played basketball in school and really enjoyed the element of the team morale, and like being part of a team it gives you lifelong skills. Like you can communicate with people, you can socialize with people, you can understand people like who work differently, and I think it's a credit to team sports, but I don't want to take away from an individual sport either. That's an absolutely astonishing sport as well. But no, my parents just left me off. Even rugby, like I was obviously the first to play it in my household, and I'm sure they were a bit apprehensive, like their oldest daughter going to play rugby, and at the time people didn't really understand it and get that it's a safe game if you play it safely. But they let me, and I'm glad they did, and gosh, I'm sure they haven't looked back since. And some days my mom can't watch the games because of the contact, but I'll forgive her for it. I'm sure she means well.
Yeah, no, of course. I think all mothers will fall into that same category. So as well, Amee-Leigh, you did mention the pandemic as well, and you didn't know if sevens was going to jump back. Is it a big transition, or is it kind of a straightforward transition? Do you find personally jumping back into 15s, because obviously you went through that then over the year of 2020, especially?
Yeah. So I hadn't played it in so long. I was
5 years,
18
was it
when
probably?
almost 5 years, and I not that I obviously still had the basic skills like of rugby, but for 15s it's so much more technical and tactical that I was kind of lost on that sense. But like the teammates around me just absolutely got behind me, took me under their wings and showed me the way. Like genuinely, I couldn't thank them enough. And I'm competition and they're still doing this and they're still wanting to get the best out of me and to help the team go forward, which is a great it's a great attribute to have to those teammates who did help me, like, and a lot of them did. So it's a credit to them and it's credit to the way they've built the culture in the team, like always driving people on and making sure everyone knows what they're doing at all times, so that, you know, like you've limited time training, so we're going to get the most out of this training session.
And as well, you know, getting the most out of your training sessions, Amee-Leigh, like you came into the sport with fantastic running mechanics due to athletics. Do you see enough of that type of training in the sport itself? Or do you find, you know, athletics can be that step ahead if you were going to make the transition into a field sport? I think anyone who's a rugby fan, they'll always know Carlin Isles. He's a fantastic highlight reel, and the highlight reel you're currently building up is phenomenal. So do you find they can be maybe a step ahead if they just grasp onto the sport that bit faster?
Yeah, like in sevens now on a Monday we'll do speed work, which is really good because obviously sevens is very fast. And working on all different types of techniques and, you know, getting over your 10s and then over your 20s and then opening up over 30, 40s, like it's vital. It's important to the game and trying to get your acceleration off the marks. But it's not always like just because you might score a 30-meter or 40-meter try, it's getting off the line to get the attackers on the back foot, like us as defenders, get off the line, put them on the back foot. Or it might just be the way you carry into contact, that big acceleration, that big knee drive through it. So like so many techniques that like I would have learned in athletics, we're still doing those basic techniques to get the most out of our performances and to get the most out of like little key areas in the game, which is quite transferable. Yeah.
And as well, Amee-Leigh, like when you were training and when you first really did kind of make a prominent just appearance onto the rugby field, was one of your first coaches, I believe, was a Padraig Culbert?
Yeah, that's him.
A sentence I love that he described one of the training sessions is, the only way we're going to stop Amee-Leigh running with the ball is with a rifle. So that just goes to show, you know, your evasion skills. And that's something, can you actually practice on your own, or does that come down to match practice where, you know, you're running at max velocity and you do need to go left or right, or it's left and then right, obviously to get past the tackle? So is that just match practice, or is there kind of mimics that you actually do on your own?
Yeah, no, we definitely do things like that in training. It's brought into warm-ups because like in training sessions then it's kind of open play stuff, so you could eventually like end up doing similar patterns. Then at the end of sessions we do quite a bit of action work, which is extras. That's what we would call extras. And you know, like you might grab a buddy who needs to do a bit of defending, and maybe I need to work in agility, so I take off and do my footwork and explode out of the blocks and stuff like that. So yeah, it's brought into training quite a lot. All different parts of the game is, and that's really good because then you're already exposed to it. So you've already seen this, and you've already seen, oh, this defender turned her shoulders this way, so I should exploit that shoulder. Or as a defender, I'm going to watch her hips instead of her feet, because her feet might do 10 different jumps or 10 different steps, but her hips are going to take her to where she's going. So the little cues like that, like you pick up on, like speed sessions with our coach Nick, and then start warm-ups and stuff, and then you try and bring them into the game and into the training sessions, and you know, you try and not fix them down and get them really honed in. But like obviously there's so many different elements, like someone could be going really slow and then stop, and then you're like, oh, so like it's all about like dictating the way you're going to defend or dictating the way you're going to attack.
But as well, you know, reading that person that you are marking, like we often hear, you know, how good are you at reading the game, but actually, you know, using that cue, like what way is our hips directing right now? Because that's ultimately the way she's going to tackle me, or obviously going to follow my run. So Amee-Leigh, just in terms of debuts and maybe I suppose some of the lows of the sport. Like, have we experienced a low maybe during a game? Do you find it hard to look? Let's say I believe we did get a debut, Anna Simbin, on the one match. Did you find that? I suppose, look, no one's going to plan for that.
No.
So what's going through the mind when we're about to come on and make that debut, and then what's going through the mind then when we actually have to jump back onto the sideline?
Yeah, gosh, like that's my first yellow ever. I've never gotten a yellow card in 7, so I was shook. So obviously I was ecstatic coming on. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was going to play for Ireland 15s, and obviously I'd played 15s from the age of 15, and like watching the girls for so long and getting the chance to do that then was huge. And obviously on the pitch for 10 minutes, and I catch my shoulder on the girl's chin, which isn't allowed. So yeah, into the bin. They took quite a long time to try and decide what they were doing with me, but at least they dealt with it there and then. And yeah, it just came off, and I was like, just so apologetic. Like, I don't know, I just kept saying I'm sorry. Like, but after the 10 minutes got back on, and you just park it. Like, you build resilience through sport, and I was just like, well, there's nothing you can do now, Lee. It's over. Like, you're just going to have to go back on and do every job that you have and do it to the best you can do it. So yeah, you just kind of park it, and yeah, you look back at it and say, well, you shouldn't have done that, Lee, but here you are now with your debut and a yellow card in the same day. So yeah, it can bother you, it can overwhelm you, but you can't let that bother you. Like, life's going on, the game's going on, training's going on. You could be hard on yourself about it, but at the end of the day, you've got a training session the next day, or you've got recovery to do. Like, there's other things and other parts of the game that you just have to get on with it.
Exactly, and the more that you do get on with, the more resilience you are building up for something like that to ever happen. Because look, it is part and parcel of a sport. It absolutely is. We have to take those days, but we just have to make sure they're less rather than more, of course. So in terms of camaraderie then, Amee-Leigh, and obviously soaring to new heights then with Ireland, how important is, the manager, is the coach, is the S&C coach? Do they all have to be in rhythm? Do they all have to be in rhyme? Or does it kind of more or less rely on the players? Like, does it fall down to the players when we're in the business side of the sport, obviously when you're approaching knockout stages, or does it all accumulate together?
Yeah, like, every coach I've had, like, they've always had the right game plan, the right attitude about it. And then, like, as you said, once you go on the field, like, the coach has no control anymore. You just got to do what is put in place, and like, respect that game plan by putting it into place, because trust me, if your coach gives you a game plan, it's the right game plan, and he or she knows. Like that with her S&C, like, if she's pushing your limits for over Christmas now with your extra meters, or maybe you're doing 88 meters and you used to do 84 or something for whatever amount of seconds, like, she's pushing you because she knows, like, that you can do it and you can get fitter. So you do leave a lot of trust in them, and you might be cursing them and being like, well, why did he say this and why did she say that? But they have the good of the team in them. They really do. Like, especially all the coaches I've worked with, I can't fault them. Like, if there's a game plan that we don't stick to, it's us. We're the ones who didn't stick to the game plan and lost control of the game. Even in Dubai, like, some things we went off script, and if we just stuck on script, then the way of the game would have been a bit different. And we learned that, like, we did. Going into the second week, we were able to stay a bit more on script and understand, like, this is how we're going to break the team down, and then we can open up our play and we can do whatever we want and end up 30 meters down the pitch instead of them 30 meters up into our half. But yeah, I respect coaches quite a lot. Like, it's not easy, I'd say, but yeah, I do enjoy it. And like, coaches feedback and stuff like that is really good. So it's the openness of it that we have in the sevens, like, with our coaches and our reviews and stuff. It's open and honest, and we can talk and our coaches can talk, and like, our S&C, she'll speak up as well, and it's a good way to have it. It's open and it's vulnerable, like you have to be vulnerable at that type of level, because we're all trying to get the best out of each other. And then for it to be a safe space. So some people mightn't think it's the right thing to say or anything like that. So we try and build a culture around that, like that if you have something to say, you're right, like say it. Because we're all going to get better if everyone can say what they think. And if they can push standards, and if they think that, the senior girls, they're out of line, we need to call them in, like, absolutely, like we respect that. And that's exactly what we try and build on.
Yeah, do not be afraid of those call outs, because a call
Yeah.
out, if it's coming from someone that you respect, it is going to better you, absolutely.
Yeah, it's coming from a good place, like it really is, and we understand that. And it's good to be able to understand that too, because some people mightn't understand how other people communicate. So for our team, we're just very open and honest, and you just kind of have to get on with it. Because we all want to make it to Paris 2024, and by doing that, we need to be on par with absolutely everything, whether it's recovery, nutrition, training, gym, whatever it is. We're always going to push each other, because a few of us, not a lot of us, have obviously missed out in Rio and Tokyo, and we really don't want to see that again in the future. So, and we want these, as we call them, the baby sevens, which are the young girls. We want them starting out their journey and starting the Olympic cycle in Paris and continuing it for as many years as they want to play.
Yeah, it's just going to constantly be a foundation. It mightn't feel like one now, because of course this is your journey, but ultimately you are, and that foundation, it just gets higher and higher every single year. Obviously that's going to dictate to the standards that you are showing with your teammates. So Amee-Leigh, and non-negotiable, something that I love, and the clients that I do coach, we do build up a set of non-negotiables, and that's just being honest with yourself. Like what do you need to have done every single 24 hours? So is there things that you always abide by? Look, for example, I know if someone eats an unbeneficial meal, they're probably not going to feel like, Usain Bolt or that powerful in the next training session. So is there any things that you abide by that you just have to make sure you get done every day or every week?
Yeah, so for me, sleep is huge. Like because I sometimes work at 5:45 in the morning, I need a good, if I'm up at that hour, I'll need like 7 hours. But if I'm not, I like get 8 or 9 hours sleep. Like it's just, I'm used to it. I've done it all my life. So sleep is like a massive factor. And I know if I haven't slept well, that I will be more fatigued, and I'm being more likely to pick up this small and stupid knock in training or things like that. And then like nutrition, as you said, is huge. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not. I don't think anyone is, or anyone can be. But I think if you get it right, majority of your time, you're on to something. Especially in high performance, your nutrition needs to be right up there, like it really does, because you're training at such a high level, high intensity. You're lifting in the gym, and your body has to be right, and it has to be fueled. And you have to look after your body, because your body's going to take you to places. Your mind can do it, but your body physically is going to take you. So you really do have to look after that. Switching off for me is probably a standard that I have. Being able to come home from training, watch training, and then, thrown on Netflix or thrown on this random podcast, just getting away from rugby, not thinking about it for a couple of hours. Work for me is great, because I get into work and it's still about physical activity, but it's not about rugby. So, and like I have a huge passion in physical activity, so I can still, mix and chat with our members and the staff, and still chat away about it. So that's another way that I like to switch off. In the summer, I obviously like, sea swimming and things like that, and I like it. Makes my body feel good. Whether there's science behind it or not, I don't really mind. But yeah, they're really the main standards that I have. Nutrition, sleep, and just trying to switch off. Like high performance is quite intense a lot of the time, and I love that. Like I love the challenge and the intensity of it, but you can't live at that intensity for your whole life. You need to be able to switch off, come back down, to be able to build yourself back up for it again. And then obviously meeting up with friends, it's nice to do that outside of the program. And in Dublin, I only really had a small circle of friends, which was the rugby girls, because I moved from Tip and I didn't go to college up there or anything, and didn't get to know anyone outside of rugby. And then I got to work in part-time in a gym, and I've gotten to know them, and they've become great friends of mine and great supporters. And they're always there looking out for me and making sure that if I need anything extra, that they're always there to help me. So I do think that part of life is good too. It's about the people like you spend your time with, and it's a big part of it. And yeah, I really enjoy switching off, because then I really enjoy switching it on, because I can go into training and I'm in the zone and in that type of environment, and everyone's on and everyone's switched on and looking forward to the session, and they're preparing for the session, whether they're doing their rehab or maybe doing an extra bit of ball skills or stuff. And then when I get to go home, like, I do live with rugby players, teammates, so sometimes, like, we just don't speak about rugby, which is great as well, because it can get like, oh, this is what happened today, what you think about this in the session, it can get a bit too much. So yeah, it's good to be able to just completely switch off, which is one of my main things.
Yeah, and to not be overconsumed, and even the way you said it is like, we're always going to enjoy that intensity phase, but we can't live in that all the time. Like, do we want to be driving in second and third gear, or do we want to get into the car, put it into the sixth and go? But at some stage, you need to park the car. You need to park the car, get out, hide the keys if you need to, because always that switch on phase, it has to be rock solid. It absolutely does. So Amee-Leigh, you did say as well that younger girls that you are playing with, you just see that bigger inspiration, a bigger insight from them due to communication. So if your 18-year-old self, 17, 16-year-old self was listening today, I suppose, what advice would you give her? Did she need any advice getting into the sport from teenager into adolescence?
Yeah, so this is what I did tell my 18-year-old self, was to work hard, because as I said, I knew my strength was speed, and I would still tell her the same thing, to keep working hard, because if I didn't work hard, I probably would have given up. Like, if I didn't keep that hard work and be like, just because you're fast doesn't mean you're going to make this team, but by work rate and bringing that into your game, you are going to make this team, because hard workers, there's not many in this world, like, especially in sport. And if you can work hard and continue to train hard, push people, push standards, whatever it is, then you'll see the light. So I think I'd still tell her the same thing, to stay working hard and enjoy it, which I have too. I do enjoy it. But there obviously was lows that I was able to deal with, and funnily enough, I mightn't have told my younger self that, like, how to deal with it, but I was just able. I obviously gained quite a lot of resilience throughout my teenage years, and moving from one sport to the next, and then moving into sevens and stuff, and I was just able to be resilient when we did lose in the qualifiers for Rio and Tokyo. Tokyo was obviously more difficult, but if I continue to train hard and push standards and lead by example, then I do believe that we'll make it to Paris 2024.
Yeah, an absolute phenomenal goal, Amee-Leigh. And even just jumping back to what you said about work rate, if you work rate, you're automatically just going to get into that environment that you do deserve to be in. And that environment is going to put direction on that work rate. It's paved one hell of a direction for you so far, and I've no doubt, like you said, that Olympic dream has to be fulfilled. But approaching this new year, Amee-Leigh, is there anything else that you're looking forward to in 2022? I know it doesn't have to be sport or anything like that, but anything that I suppose you're kind of setting a goal for.
So for the sevens, we're hoping to qualify for the Sevens World Cup in Cape Town next September. So the qualifiers hopefully are in June. So that's like a huge goal of ours, and it'd be great to do it, because we went to the World Cup in San Fran 2018, and it was one of the best tournaments. I did have a little niggle and I didn't get to play too much, but it was an amazing tournament to be part of. So yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest team goals for us next year, and just for me to just continue leading by example, really. Keep working hard. And for me at the moment, I'm working on a bit of speed because I might have lost a bit of it just throughout different reasons throughout the year. But getting back up to percentages that I might have been hitting back in the summer, which would be great for me. So over the Christmas now, even though they're muddy pitches, I'm going to try my best to get up to those percentages that I need to be at to get my speed up to standard that I want it to be at.
Well, seeing your 100 try on the 26th of November just gone, I don't think we're after losing any speed. But look, that just shows obviously the higher standard that you constantly have to keep reaching. So Amee-Leigh, just last question I'd love to finish on is, I suppose, how important is the month of December for people? And what I mean by that is, not waiting until maybe the first Monday of a new year to put a plan in place. Like, what can be done in some of these days where, maybe work isn't too hectic? Like, just kind of sit down, write down, outline your goals. Like, do you feel it is a better time to do it rather than obviously waiting for January?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm that type of person, like no time like the present. I'm like, why does January differ from December? If you're going to wait a month, you could have had so much done in a month. But if I could give advice, I know it's winter months and stuff, but definitely just start getting active. If you think you're going to start getting really active in January, you should start now. Get out for walks, slowly do a jog, things like that. Get little HIIT sessions in, no matter what it is, something small. And even like for young girls, I'm like, young girls lose interest in sport and things like that. But if they just stay active, like get out with your parents, get out for a walk, get the dog, bring him out for a walk. It's cold, but you'll feel so much better after it. Trust me, like there's nothing like coming back from, a cold walk and coming back into your warm house. But even if you are interested in the gym, like head into the gym, you only have to spend 45 minutes to an hour. No one's asking you to spend 3 hours in there. Just to get a bit of movement in. There's so much you can do on YouTube now. It's not just about wait until January because, all the gym programs will be out then. And, there's nothing for me now because it's Christmas when, you can still enjoy Christmas. Like no one's saying you can't enjoy it, but there's time now that you can have a positive effect on your life going forward.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Christmas, it is there to be enjoyed. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it, Amee-Leigh. I certainly am. Yeah. And of course, that's not going to diminish anything. The results will still be there. We'll still have that same body. We'll still have that same mindset. But like you said, there is no time like the present. Amee-Leigh, thank you so much for joining me today. Absolutely awesome. Some fantastic takeaway points. I'm still going to write down that, pressure is a privilege. I think that's one of the best statements that I've heard. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gillian.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. I hope you gained some valuable insight into the mind of the athlete. Keep up to date by following us on social media at Full Rotation Fitness. But if you want to take your own personal development to the next level, receive the best possible structure and guidance that you need, then you must join a community of athletes, transforming their lives every single day. Do not hesitate to get in contact. Your time is now. The FRF Athlete Hub is a growing culture of aspiring athletes all working towards the one goal, to become the best version of ourselves both on and off the pitch. With monthly challenges, weekly lessons, exclusive athlete gear, and library of information from workouts to nutrition. Don't forget the mindset. The FRF Athlete Hub is the mecca for all our explosive athletes. If you have the drive and the determination to maximise your performance, then join hundreds of past, present and future athletes. The FRF community is where you will reach your potential. Just head over to our Instagram page and drop us a message. We'll see you very, very soon.